As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
So I guess that's the last thing maybe if we could turn to is what do you see as a realistic potential fallout of, breakdown of the systems that everybody has just become kind of mindlessly assuming and taking for granted that are going to be there to help sustain and support them, and what kind of actions are the most prudent for people to take as leaders in their own family and in their community and in the broader, human family, to help make sure that we minimize the impact to ourselves and to others of what's coming.
Oh, great. I'll start with the broad one, and that's, of course, one, it's based on integrity. I mean, basically, the whole system is based on confidence and trust, and the authorities certainly have lost, the vast majority of people, even those that have never listened to a show like yours, understand that there's something vastly wrong with the system and it can't be trusted. I mean, very few people are out there thinking that the system at large, be it, the national, state, or even at the local level, can be trusted. So that's a breakdown of confidence, which the whole system is based on. So to circumvent that, you need to start with, high integrity at all levels. So from a big picture perspective, what you're seeing right now is a breakaway of the financial side or the monetary side, and that is alternative currencies. And you're seeing, the Bitcoin thing, you're seeing this BitGold that just started, you're seeing gold and silver backed debit cards, you're seeing a few of those, you're seeing alternative currencies, you're seeing people that do trade in local currency. So this is a breakaway from the monetary system, and money is power and power is control, and the whole thing's about control. It's about having absolute certainty about you, the individual, being controlled by somebody, going back to the collectivist view that we at the top know what's good for you. You are children, we are the adults, and we're going to tell you what you can eat, where you can live, how much space you can have, how much energy you can use, what transportation you're allowed, et cetera, et cetera. And if you think I'm extreme, just think it through. So that's the big picture. So there's a pushback, and the pushback is alternative currencies, because if you're outside of their monetary control, then they've really lost a lot of power over you. Not that they can't, the local police couldn't show up and, whatever, harass you. But it's a big picture, and it's a big thing, and it's a trend that very few people see. And me being a leader, quote unquote, you think that I am or I am not. Well, I don't care. What I am telling you very frankly is that you're starting to see that trend, and it will continue, and it will gain, and you will find the market, the free market, voting for, these debit cards or these BitGolds or these whatever alternative outside the banking realm payment system. So that's number one.
Yeah, and just to underscore that, if I'm understanding you correctly, is the whole of our legal and financial system and political system, for that matter, our whole society is really, in its ground, is based on integrity and trust. And when people start losing trust in their leaders and in the system to treat people right, or to be aligned with what we instinctively know as overarching principles, that people start to withdraw their trust from that system. And for example, these financial split-offs that you're talking about, alternative currencies and so on, are an example. They're like a symptom. They're like a cave canary that shows, you see, people are voting with their coin. They're pulling their trust out of leaders whom they don't trust, in a system they don't trust in, and they're putting it elsewhere because they can sense that the trust is no longer due in that area. Am I getting what you're saying?
Oh, that was a good summary. And that brought to mind something I kind of left out when I was on that track. And that is, we talked about just the individual doing everything on their own. No, you need the community. And community is different than the collective. And I want to make that clear. So the monetary system is key in that, because if we all agree that, gold is money, as an example, and it's got integrity in and of itself, then we can diversify our talents. So if I'm really good at building houses but don't know anything about making shoes, but you're great at making footwear, then we can exchange. And of course, trading directly with barter is very cumbersome and doesn't work very well, because a small item for a big item, I'll build you a house, but you have to supply shoes for my family for the next 1,000 years, doesn't work. But money circumvents that because we all agree. So when you have a monetary system, you have what's called division of labor, and the most effective way for everyone to be their highest and best selves. And that's awesome. And that's why we were able to do what we've done. But it's based on integrity, and again, it's breaking down. So I want to make that point. So it's a strong community, but community, again, isn't collectivism. These are people that adhere to those two principles I've discussed again. So going further, so we talked about the breakaway of the monetary system into these alternatives, and the other one is a resurgence of responsibility, because individual responsibility goes with individualism. And people are waking up to the fact that if I want to be healthy, it's not the government's job or my doctor's job or my so-and-so's job to make me healthy. It's a personal responsibility that I have to study basic nutrition. I have to understand, what works for me, and people are different. I mean, some people's workout routines would kill other people. I mean, when I did triathlons a few years back, if I went out and just did the workout that I used to do 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't have a heart attack, but maybe close to it. I mean, I'm not in condition to do that kind of training anymore. I've gotten away from that years ago. The point is, you can build up to it, but the idea being that your health is your responsibility. What you feed in your head is your responsibility. The way you treat others is your responsibility. So the individualism really comes down to personal responsibility. And we've all been taught again and again and again by what I call the system, that you're not responsible. You're that way because you had bad parents, or you're that way because you had the wrong school, or you're that way because you weren't taught that the group could outthink you and that the group would have done this for you, and all this nonsense, because the group is only as strong as the individuals.
Yeah, and if I can just tag in on that too, because I think you're really onto a nerve here in that I see strongly countervailing trends in our culture where the majority, and I would even say the quote-unquote official majority, as enforced through public education and through the media and through entertainment and so on, is just absolutely pushing this completely revolutionary, un-American idea, if you consider the core values of our founding fathers and so on, that in fact you are entitled and you're not responsible, and somebody owes you a living, and there's forced diversity classes that our sons have to take in college that basically talk about how there's just people are just in unfair disadvantage and everything like that, and you just see that playing out in national politics and everything. So that's being enforced, that's being actually trained, which is basically this, I think, un-American and untrue idea that you're not responsible for your state in life, versus a sort of a remnant that's left in a minority of people who are really still clinging to the traditional value that takes that personal responsibility that you described there, that used to be culturally widespread. It used to be the American ethos, and now it's becoming the exception. So when you talk about a resurgence of responsibility, I would just say that I'm seeing a real split in this minority of people who really are doing exactly what you're saying. They're taking that personal responsibility. That's what we're about here on this channel too, but that the vast majority, and in fact it's being reinforced and trained by the official sources, is in the opposite direction.
You're well said. So I'm going to move on to the second year where I spoke at the Liberty Mastermind, and that was about peaceful revolution. And this adds on to what you just said, Dunnigan. And what I said is, the way I see it, there could or probably would be a breakdown in society, and there'll be what I consider to be self-organizing communities. And in that speech, I said that the self-organizing communities will be like-minded people. So there will be, and this is the only peaceful way I see there, and certainly this is something I spend a great deal of time on, and there's no really precedents in history where you could say, oh, this is what happened. But as at least an intellectual exercise, those that want to be communists, so let's just do a thought experiment. Okay, society breaks down, the federal government loses power, trust is lost throughout the majority of the population, and people are left to fend for themselves. So now what happens? It's a pretty extreme case, but let's explore that because we're talking about some important ideas here. So those that think that, having a commune is the best way to go, they gather together and they start a commune. Those that think a free market approach is the best way to go, they band together and start that type of approach. The socialists get together and do their approach. And that's the way, and as long as everybody agrees, going back to the two principles I keep talking about, if the communists over there are doing their thing and they're growing corn and our group over here forgot to plant it and we're getting pretty hungry for it, but we're raising goats. And just this is an intellectual exercise. This is not saying this is what's going to happen. I just want people to think. I want them to think. So we forgot to plant corn, so we go over to the communists and we can trade with them. Their philosophy is different than ours, but it doesn't mean we couldn't trade freely and be peaceful. Your group has a different outlook and a different worldview than ours, but we're happy in our group and you're happy in your group, and hey, we got something that you want and you've got something we want, let's trade. So that's what could happen. That was my speech, was that the revolution, if you will, is to let everybody be themselves. And a lot of these people that are in the groupthink collectivist viewpoint is, well, I'll just get in with this big group over here and someone will figure it out for me because I don't know, I'm not a leader, and we'll just vote on it. Hey, everyone votes, the majority votes, we all want good housing. Yeah, we all want good housing. And they vote, we want organic food. Yeah, we all vote, we want organic food. And we vote, we ought to have a rec center. We ought to have some, weight equipment and a swimming pool. Yeah, let's vote for that. And so they get all this stuff that they're going to get. But no one takes one step toward a shovel to start digging the pond so they'll find out pretty quickly how groupthink really goes. And, so this is the breakdown. This is what people will learn the hard way. The lessons of history are lost on the vast majority. The great lesson of history is that people don't learn the lessons of history. And unless you are willing to at least go to the individual level and say, I'll do what I can, and you find someone that does what they can, and you get together because you both realize that you have a responsibility to yourself and others. I'm not saying it's all me, and this is where I'm having a very difficult time because I want people to understand that I'm not a me, I. In fact, the opposite is true. The highest and best value of a human being is to be of service to others, but that doesn't mean you forget to be of service to yourself, because if you're not of maximum service to yourself, understanding the spiritual being that you are and what your commitments are at a high integrity, at a truth, honesty level, if you don't start from that basic principle and from that basic essence, which is the essence of the best that we are as humans, if you don't start there, then you really don't have much to give. I'm very fond of saying I'm very, very critical of people because it's what you have, not what you have. And that, of course, baffles people. Well, what did David just say? Well, it's what you have internal. It's what's your integrity, what's your honesty, what's your respect of others, regardless of where they are on the social scale. What is it that you have that's held in your heart and your head, and what are your principles, and how do you live your life? That's what you have. The other part is, what do you have external? How much money do you have? How much silver do you have? What house do you have? What car do you have? That stuff, if it were taken away and you were really real, an individual that was fully developed, let's say, or fully actualized with the higher source, I think that's a better way to put it, then that stuff on the outside really wouldn't affect you. Now, that's easy to say philosophically, very hard to do because we're all attached usually at some level to things. But if you really are your highest and best self, you don't really have an attachment to that stuff. You understand what you are in your essence. So that's what I mean by that statement. So you're not going to find a lot of people like that. As you said, Dunnigan, there's people on this channel that are like that, and they're few and far between. But when the whole thing comes tumbling down as a metaphor, and it may, then we're going to find out who the leaders are, because the leaders are going to instill the right principles and the right ideas and ideals. And it won't be because they have a great speaking voice or that they make sense, but that will be part of it. And not the speaking voice necessarily, but the ideas are important, not whose voice it is. But it's in the action. And it's like, wow, over there's only 25 people, but man, they've got more than enough, and they're able to trade with us. We're barely making it. What are they doing different than we're doing? oh, I see. They're letting everyone be themselves and do what they do best. The guy that knows how to garden is doing the gardens with those 4 people, and he's kind of training them and how to plant so that you don't have to use as much fertilizer. And that group within this group is showing the younger guys how to build efficiently and how to use, rammed earth to insulate so that there's not as much need for heating and cooling on and on. I don't want to go down this rabbit trail too far, but what I want to say is that, it does start with us. And it does start with us as being the best and being of service to others. So it's the paradox I talked about in the movie I was in. When I was in The Four Horsemen, I didn't know where that was going to go. I was interviewed for, 2 or 3 hours, and they took a few clips of what I said, and everyone else had a similar experience. But I said it's a paradox, because the truth is it is a paradox. If you are truly the highest and best individual, you can be of maximum service to others. And that's the paradox, because it sounds in a way that you're being selfish. But no, being your best isn't being selfish. It's meaning that you have the best to offer others. And usually it's reflected back. Usually when you are in a high integrity, high space, and a loving space, that is what you get back. In fact, I think when I gave that speech, it's coming back to me. I said, what is the secret of life? And I said, or what is the meaning of life was one of my slides. And I said, life is the meaning you give it. If your life is watching the Kardashians and what happens to Bruce Jenner, then that's your life. That's the meaning you give it. If your life has a purpose, if you have a higher calling, if you have something that you really want to give to others or present as a principle that is going to be life-changing, like the idea of the founding of the country, that the individual had the right to be themselves as long as they didn't harm anyone else. Wow. Okay. That's something really important. That was the meaning of that life, or those lives of the founders. And then I asked, what is the secret of life? That was another slide. And in that slide, I said, well, the secret of life, and this is me talking, this isn't fact, this is philosophy, is to give away what you want. If most people, a lot of people don't even know what they want, but some do. And if you want more joy in your life, then be more joyful. If you want more humor in your life, be more humorous. If you want to get more in your life, then give more to others. This is really the secret of life in a lot of ways. So I know that you were there for that speech, and I'm glad that you brought me back to talk about it. I like this topic. I feel somewhat uncomfortable because I've learned over the years that people hear what they want to hear and see what they want to see, and they can misconstrue stuff and take it out of context and say, well, David's a communist. No, David's a super libertarian. No, David's, I'm not anything, really. I mean, if you have to put a label on me, put one on me. But, I am the best human being I can be today. And believe me, Dunnigan, I'm far different, man today than I was, say, when I was 30. There's stuff in my past that I'm not that proud of. But I will admit it. I won't cover it up, and I won't deny it, because by making those mistakes, it taught me to be better than what I was then. So, excuse me, I'm getting a little emotional here, but that's the best I can give. I think we've gone down this trail quite far. I hope I was of service to you and your listeners.
Absolutely. I really appreciate that, because I think that this will be a very unusual recording for people to contemplate on, and because it's not just rattling down a list of practical steps that people can check off and say, yep, I did all that stuff. It's really asking them to think, as you said, and to examine what is the purpose, who are we underneath, what is our calling based on higher principles, and from that, an awareness of that should flow the courage to be awake and aware, the courage to take concerted action, the courage to go against the flow, unlike dead things that can go with the flow. And in the time of crisis, which we think is likely to come, to emerge as leaders in our families and our communities in a way that corresponds with the giving what you truly need principle that you brought out. So, and I think that's completely sound and backed up by any valid philosophy or religion. So, David, if anybody wants to find out more of your thinking, where can they reach you online?
Well, the best place is just go to the website, which is themorganreport.com. It's all one word. We'll be redoing the website over the next few months. We're going to simplify the website, basically ask people, one of 4 questions. 1, get on our free email list if that's what you want to do. 2, subscribe at either the premium, insider, or mastermind level for the, paid subscriptions. buy the book, The Silver Manifesto, or something else in a store, or basically get off the website. I'm not tired of doing public stuff. I've done it for years. I've basically been an educator, but I need to revamp the website because, we're still going to continue to give away, material like this for free. I mean, I love doing it and I like to help others, and I don't, demand a fee for doing so, but nonetheless, I do have to make a living like everyone else. So I am going to revamp the website that's more about, how you can reciprocate with me for value. And then on the YouTube channel, all these type of interviews go on there, and that's Silver Guru, and I doubt I'll rename that. The Morgan Report is much more than just the silver market. We look at the resource sector, and I'm looking, out into the future where will we go? And I want to anticipate that. So these alternative currencies and where you can invest your money after the peak in the metals or as they're peaking is a very important question that I want to be able to lead in that. And I'm going to be, addressing that in the future, looking ahead and trying to give ideas that are of value to our membership. And then on Twitter, which is just what I read, I'm an avid reader, as you know, Dunnigan, I put up 3 or 4 articles a day that I've read, and I read several. So let's say I do 15. I usually pick 3 or 4 that I think are like key importance to those that are, still reading stuff on the internet. And it's valuable to know this stuff. So that's the main areas to go. If you get at themorganreport.com, just sign up for our free email. Every weekend, we'll send you kind of a summation of what interviews I've done during the week. We used to take a question from one of the free people or paid people that asked us a question. We address that. And also, I'll just plug the book a little bit, The Silver Manifesto, on page II. It's right at the very beginning. There's a code, and you actually will get the book price refunded to you if you become a member of the Morgan Report. So in other words, there's a huge discount for the Morgan Report within the context of the Silver Manifesto. So if you utilize that, you would get basically the Morgan Report, and the book would be gratis. So something to consider. We will be making a push on the Silver Manifesto over the next month or two. And you can go to thesilvermanifesto.com to get more information.
Well, David, thanks for being here on Reluctant Preppers, coming back and talking to us, and frankly offering your leadership, your thought leadership, and philosophies that are so vital to the why behind what we do, and helping people understand why it's a necessity to overcome groupthink and to act courageously as leaders in our families. And we just thank you for being here on Reluctant Preppers. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I hope it was worthwhile. It's a tough topic to get right, but it's so important, especially today, because people have got to wake up and walk their talk. It's, again, comes back to the individual you, and you've got to be able to say, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And what can I do in a constructive, productive way to not only help myself, but simultaneously help others? That paradox. By helping yourself be the best, you're helping others around you to be their best.